The hill overlooking the Sea of Galilee was bathed in the soft light of morning. The air carried the scent of wildflowers and olive trees, and the quiet murmur of waves below mingled with the whispers of a growing crowd. Men, women, children and elders, farmers in dusty robes, fishermen with calloused hands, merchants who had paused their business, all gathered with an unspoken expectation. Word had spread quickly. Jesus of Nazareth would speak here. Some had traveled for hours, even days, to hear him. Others were drawn by curiosity. Many carried burdens, sickness, poverty, broken hearts, and hoped for something more than daily survival. Among the crowd was Elias, a young man from Capernaum. He was not wealthy, but his curiosity had driven him here. His father had told him stories of prophets long ago, men who spoke with the authority of God. Yet Elias wondered, could this Jesus truly be one of them? He had seen Jesus heal a blind man days earlier. The memory still lingered. Perhaps today he would hear something that would change his life. As the people settled on the grass, Jesus walked to the top of the hill. He did not arrive with pomp or soldiers, but with simplicity. Yet his presence commanded attention. His eyes carried both gentleness and strength, as though he could see the hidden struggles in every soul before him. When he sat, the hush was immediate. What he was about to say would not only echo in the hearts of those listening, but would ripple through history, shaping nations and faith itself. Jesus opened his mouth and began with words no one expected. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." A murmur passed through the crowd. The poor in spirit? Elias leaned forward, confused yet intrigued. In his world, the powerful, the wealthy, the rulers and the scholars were blessed. Yet Jesus spoke of the humble, those aware of their need for God as the true heirs of heaven. Elias felt his chest tighten. Could it be that even someone like him, ordinary and flawed, was counted among the blessed? "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Elias thought of his mother who had died the previous winter, leaving his father broken. Comfort had seemed far away, yet Jesus declared it was near, not in wealth or strength, but in God's embrace. People around Elias nodded, some with tears. These words pierced deeper than mere philosophy. They touched the wounds of human hearts. "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." This was radical. Rome ruled the land with iron and sword. The meek, the quiet, the oppressed, they owned nothing. Yet Jesus declared them future heirs. It was not the empire, but the humble who would possess true victory. Elias's eyes widened. He could feel a current in the air, as if heaven itself pressed closer with each word. Jesus continued, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The Beatitudes washed over the crowd like waves of light. Some wept openly, others bowed their heads. Elias felt both conviction and hope. He realized that Jesus was redefining what it meant to live, to love, and to belong to God's kingdom. After the Beatitudes, Jesus looked across the hillside and said, "You are the salt of the earth." Elias puzzled at the metaphor. Salt was common yet essential. It preserved food, gave flavor, and symbolized purity in temple sacrifices. Jesus was telling them they were not insignificant. They were meant to preserve truth, to bring life taste, and to shine as examples. "You are the light of the world," Jesus declared. "A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Elias glanced at the surrounding hills, imagining torches glowing at night. He realized Jesus was calling each person to live visibly, courageously, reflecting God's light in a dark world. Then Jesus spoke of the law and the prophets. Many feared he would dismiss them, but he said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." His authority shook the listeners. He was not discarding the scriptures but bringing them to their intended meaning. As he spoke, his teachings cut to the heart. He said, "You have heard it was said, 'You shall not murder,' but I say to you, anyone who is angry with his brother without cause will be in danger of judgment." Elias thought of his own brother whom he had envied for years. Could even his hidden bitterness separate him from God? The words were both sharp and healing, like a surgeon's hand cutting to heal a wound. Jesus spoke of adultery, not only in action but in desire. He spoke of honesty, commanding, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." He went deeper than surface actions, reaching into the intentions of the heart. Then came words that stunned everyone. "You have heard it was said, 'An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.' But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to the other also." Gasps rose from the crowd. Rome's oppression was harsh. Many longed for revenge. Yet Jesus was speaking of a radical love, one that transcended vengeance. He continued, "You have heard it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Elias felt a weight inside him. He had cursed Roman soldiers under his breath many times. Could he truly love them? Could he pray for them? Yet as Jesus spoke, Elias realized this was no ordinary teacher. Only someone filled with divine authority could command such love. Jesus turned to prayer, offering what would become the most famous words ever spoken. "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Elias repeated the words silently, his lips trembling. They were simple, unlike the elaborate prayers of the Pharisees. They were intimate, calling God not only as King, but as Father. Jesus spoke of treasures, urging the crowd not to store wealth on earth, where moth and rust destroy, but in heaven, where eternal reward awaits. He warned, "You cannot serve both God and money." Elias knew this truth. He had seen neighbors driven by greed, never satisfied. He pointed to the birds overhead and the lilies in the field. "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?" Elias gazed at a sparrow fluttering nearby. His chest swelled. Could God truly see even him, a simple man? Jesus' words grew sharper toward the end. "Do not judge, or you too will be judged." He spoke of the narrow gate that leads to life, warning of false prophets, and concluded with an image Elias would never forget. "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it did not fall, because its foundation was on the rock. But everyone who hears these words and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." A silence heavier than stones settled. The words lingered in the air like a fire that could not be extinguished. Elias knew he was no longer the same. These teachings were not like the rigid rules of the Pharisees. They were alive, piercing, and transforming. When Jesus finished, the crowd was astonished. He had spoken not as a scribe quoting tradition, but with authority, as though the very voice of God had spoken through him. Elias rose with the others, heart pounding. He looked around and saw faces changed, eyes filled with tears, joy, conviction, and awe. He realized he had just witnessed something eternal. These were not merely words for one hillside in Galilee. They were words that would echo through generations, shaping hearts, inspiring movements, and indeed changing the world. As Elias walked back toward Capernaum, he whispered the words to himself. Blessed are the peacemakers. Love your enemies. Store treasures in heaven. Build on the rock. He knew life would never be the same. The Sermon on the Mount was not just a message. It was an invitation to a new way of living, a kingdom not of swords and power, but of love, mercy, and truth. And so the story of that morning spread, from mouth to ear, from village to city, until eventually the world itself would be touched by those words, words that changed everything.